If you ever need proof that consequences don't exist, just look at Hollywood, because Jared Leto, the notorious method actor who mailed rats, bullets, and used protection to his co-stars, made crew members on the set of Morbius push him around in a wheelchair because he refused to walk, and has over 9 separate allegations from women, and I mean women of all ages. That man was the new lead of a multi-million-dollar Disney franchise. Disney, the company that built an empire on singing princesses and moral lessons. I mean, make it make sense. Welcome to the wonderful world of Hollywood, where the worse you behave, the more opportunities you get. Throw a chair on set? Passionate. Terrorize your co-workers? Dedicated. Commit actual crimes? Oh, he's just a tortured artist. Because apparently, if you're good enough at pretending to be other people, you don't actually have to be a decent one yourself. And it's wild how normalized this has become. These stories come out, everyone acts shocked for about 3 business days, and then what? It's just back to work they go? And what I keep wondering is how? How do you terrorize an entire production, make everyone around you hate showing up for work, and still get cast as the hero in the next blockbuster? How can a director like Roman Polanski admit to doing unspeakable things with a 13-year-old girl, flee America so he doesn't have to go to jail, and then 25 years later win the Oscar for Best Director? I wish I was joking. And I remember when I first heard about this, I immediately went to go look up the video of the win, because, hello, can you imagine how loud the booing would have been? I mean, everybody knew about his horrible crime. Yeah, well, imagine my shock when I saw this.
The Oscar goes to Roman Polanski for The Pianist.
I'm sorry, what? You've got all these A-list actors and directors giving him this huge standing ovation. Meryl Streep is even standing on her bloody chair. Am I in some alternate reality or something? Keep in mind, he is not physically there to collect his award, because if he stepped foot in the US, he would be arrested on the spot. He is literally a fugitive. Oh, but don't worry about that, because Harrison Ford then went and hand-delivered the Oscar to him in France. What a nice guy. It's not so much a question of how can someone like Roman Polanski still work, it's who is behind the scenes enabling it. And once you draw back that curtain, you will see things that are impossible to believe.
Roman Polanski is not a predator.
Because I like the girls of this age, and because the girls of that age for some reason like me.
Yes, Roman Polanski, I'm very sorry that he's in jail.
Granted that you have this interest in young girls. Wasn't an incident like the one that happened more or less bound to happen eventually?
Looking back at it, it probably was bound to happen, yeah. Because the girl was 2 weeks short of 14.
And you actually did know? You actually did
know?
Yeah,
I knew she was 14 because she was talking about her birthday before that.
How come Hollywood embraces this director who a 13-year-old?
He had sex with a minor.
All right. That she didn't want to have.
No, that was not the case at all. She wanted to have it.
Well,
and dated the guy, and
she was 13,
and she was down with it. And she's talked about it. She's talked about it.
You see, this is the side of Hollywood that they try to keep hidden. After Polanski pled guilty to his crimes and fled the US, he spent the next few decades as this cinematic fugitive. He was directing films in Europe, winning awards, and conveniently avoiding any country that might hand him back to the US. But then in 2009, he messed up. He went to Switzerland to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Zurich Film Festival, and that's when Swiss police swooped in and arrested him on the US warrant. Finally, it looked like he might actually be sent back to the US to face sentencing for his horrible, horrible crime, which again, he pled guilty for. But before a final decision was made, Hollywood stepped in, not to seek justice, but to make sure there wasn't any. Over 100 famous directors, producers, and actors signed a petition demanding his release. And prepare for some of these names, because this is gonna shock you. Wes Anderson, Penelope Cruz, Guillermo del Toro, Harrison Ford, David Lynch, Natalie Portman, Martin Scorsese, Tilda Swinton, Emma Thompson, Darren Aronofsky, Alfonso Cuarón, Alejandro Iñárritu, Steven Soderbergh, plus many, many more. They called it a travesty of justice that a great filmmaker had been arrested. Not a man who admitted to assaulting a child, no, a filmmaker. And after a year of what was basically luxury house arrest, Switzerland announced that they wouldn't be sending him back to America. Their excuse? Procedural flaws, which is basically just lawyer speak for the US didn't send us all the right paperwork, so oh well. That was it. He walked free. No time behind bars, no accountability, nothing. Did the petition actually change anything? No, not really, but it didn't have to. The message was loud loud enough. It was Hollywood showing the world exactly who it stands with, and it wasn't with the victim. And the reason why I bring this up is because it perfectly explains why Hollywood rewards bad people. Because when you have some of the most powerful names in the industry standing up for a man like that, it suddenly makes sense why nothing ever changes. These are the same people still shaping Hollywood today, directing, producing, starring in the movies we watch, which is honestly terrifying because it proves that in Hollywood, talent will always matter more than women. So in today's video, I'm gonna go over many examples of terrible people still working in the industry, and I want you to take note of all the enablers that still make it happen. Like the people who continue to work with Polanski even after he pled guilty. Because in Hollywood, the real talent isn't acting, it's pretending you didn't see anything. But before we get into more controversial directors, because trust me, there's a lot, let's talk about some of the terrible actors who have done terrible things but still continue to work. I still can't get over how Jared Leto managed to be the lead of Disney's Tron franchise reboot. I mean, this guy is known for being genuinely the worst person to work with, someone who terrorizes the cast and crew with the excuse of being a method actor. But what I find more concerning is the long list of allegations against him that go back 20 years. The first stories begin back in 2006 when a girl alleged that Jared had hit on her when she was just 16 years old. A few years later, another girl who was also 16 alleged that she met him at an event, and by 17, she was invited to his recording studio where he allegedly walked out of the room without any clothes on. 2025 is where things really escalated when Air Mail published this huge expose where 9 women accused Jared Leto of sexual misconduct. Several of them claimed that they were minors when it happened, and they all shared very similar stories. Of course, these are all just allegations, and his team were very quick to deny them. But what I find the most interesting is that there was someone inside the industry who hinted at Jared's behavior years ago. Not a journalist, not a fan, a director. James Gunn. In 2012, James Gunn tweeted, driving home from Vegas, trading stories about what a dick Jared Leto is. In 2015, in a now deleted livestream, James accused Jared of sleeping with girls who weren't of age. He later apologized for this stream, basically saying that he wasn't in the right state of mind. But oh, he wasn't anywhere near done. Flash forward to 2018, where actor Dylan Sprouse bravely tweeted out saying, "Yo Jared Leto, now that you've slid into the DMs of every model aged 18 to 25, what would you say your success rate is?" And James Gunn replied with, "He starts at 18 on the internet." Is everybody hearing this right now? I can't believe this wasn't as big of a deal at the time. Well, maybe that's because in the same year of this tweet, James Gunn had his own controversy when a bunch of his old tweets resurfaced, and they weren't very good. These tweets contained some pretty disturbing satirical jokes about things I just can't repeat on my channel. And this wasn't just some random filmmaker, guys. This was James Gunn, the director of Guardians of the Galaxy, one of Disney's biggest, most successful franchises. So what did Disney do? They fired him. Immediately. He was pulled off Guardians of the Galaxy 3 overnight, with the studio saying that his jokes were indefensible and didn't align with their values. Keep in mind that this happened during the Me Too movement, when every studio was desperate to prove that they cared about accountability. So what I find just fascinating is how they had so much of an issue with James's old tweets, but they conveniently ignored his recent tweet calling Jared Leto a predator. Isn't that interesting? Because they had no problem casting Jared as the lead in Tron Ares just a few years later. It's funny how they care more about people who make the jokes rather than people who actually did the stuff. Allegedly. Anyway, after much outrage, Disney rehired James Gunn for Guardians 3, and it went on to be a huge success. But the point still stands. It's the fake progressive stuff that Hollywood does that just drives me insane. In 2006, actor Mel Gibson was arrested for a DUI, which quickly turned into him spewing loads of anti-Semitic insults at the officers. This was pretty damaging on its own, but then in 2010, things just escalated for him when a recording was leaked of him spewing misogynistic and racist things towards his then partner Oksana. After their split, she went on to also claim that Mel was both physically and emotionally violent during their relationship. After the 2010 recordings were leaked, his career did come to a bit of a standstill, and a lot of people assumed that he would be done for good. But hey, this is Hollywood we're talking about, so in 2016, he made his big comeback directing the hit movie Hacksaw Ridge, which went on to receive 6 Oscar nominations. From there on out, he was back in business, starring in things such as Daddy's Home 2, because he is just the perfect guy to have in your kids' film. Moving on, when Ben Affleck tried to condemn producer Harvey Weinstein for his unacceptable behavior, people online brought up the time in 2003 when he groped an MTV presenter live on TV. He then realized his disturbing hypocrisy and quickly apologized for it before it was swept under the rug. He was also accused of groping another woman in 2014 at a Golden Globes after party, which he just never commented on. Actor Dustin Hoffman was accused of sexually harassing a 17-year-old production assistant in 1985. Allegedly, he would constantly grope her, as well as make wildly inappropriate comments. She recalls a time when she asked him what he wanted for breakfast, and he responded by saying, "I'll have a hard-boiled egg and a soft-boiled Disgusting, isn't it? He later responded to these accusations saying, "I have the utmost respect for women and feel terrible that anything I might have done could have put her in an uncomfortable situation. I am sorry, it is not reflective of who I am." But hey, let's put him in Kung Fu Panda 4, shall we? And then there's Ezra Miller, and oh boy, where do I even start? Back in 2020, a video got leaked which showed Ezra choking a woman at a bar. That is not an exaggeration, you can literally see it all unfold. Of course, there was no consequences of this, and he continued his role as the Flash in the DCU. But that's not all. Over the past 2 years, there has been multiple reports and accusations against Ezra, including harassment, assault, grooming, burglary. It's just a mess. A family in Massachusetts filed a protection order claiming Ezra was targeting their child. And yet somehow, none of this interfered with their role in the DCU. Later on that year, Ezra came out with a statement saying, "Having recently gone through a time of intense crisis, I now understand that I am suffering complex mental health issues and have begun ongoing treatment." And to be fair, since 2023, Ezra hasn't really been heard of or seen in the acting world since, so maybe this time Hollywood finally did the right thing? Nah, of course they didn't. In May of this year, Ezra was seen on the red carpet at Cannes Film Festival. Can you bloody believe it? Apparently they were there to support director Lynn Ramsey for her new film, Die My Love. Now, as soon as I saw this, I literally said to myself, oh my god, I bet they're about to make a comeback into acting. I just know it. And guess what? I was right. Turns out Ezra will be playing the lead in Lynn Ramsey's new film, and apparently it's being framed as their big return to Hollywood. Only in this industry can someone be accused of harassing and grooming multiple 12 to 14-year-olds, one of whom literally has a harassment prevention order against them, and still come back a major Hollywood star. Are you guys starting to see what I mean when I say there is literally no consequences? Because if you're not, let me give you my most recent example of actor Ansel Elgort. Back in 2020, Twitter user It's Gabby accused 20-year-old Ansel of assaulting and grooming her when she was just 17 years old. With that, she provided a ton of screenshots where he allegedly told her things like, "You can't tell another soul about us or I will get in trouble." Totally not sus at all. In a statement, Ansel said that whilst they did have a brief and consensual relationship, the description of events is simply not what happened. Following Gabby's post, 3 other women came forward with their own stories alleging that Ansel had acted inappropriately towards them via direct message when they were between the ages of 14 to 16. But after that first allegation, Ansel kind of disappeared from both the internet and acting for almost 6 years. But of course, you all know how the pattern goes, and just a few days ago it was announced that Ansel is starring in a new movie called Dinner with Audrey. It's an ongoing cycle. A powerful man gets accused, people look the other way, and eventually he gets handed a redemption arc. And as you can probably tell, there are so many more actors who have been accused of this kind of stuff and still get to keep working. But I'm not gonna sit here and list every single one. Not because they don't matter, but because at some point it just gets exhausting. And obviously obviously, majority of them are just allegations and we can't say for certain if they are true. So it does get a little bit murky and I can understand that. But as we've seen, even if you are committed of actual real crimes, the industry doesn't care and they let you in over and over again. And then you have the never-ending list of actors who are just straight up awful to work with. The notorious method actor Shia LaBeouf is known for having the world's worst temper, getting into fights with his co-stars. He also just straight up doesn't shower for certain roles in an attempt to really get into character. And I'm talking months on end without showering, basically forcing these crew members to live in his stench. And the worst part is, it's always the crew members who get the brunt of it. These are the people who are working their butts off behind the scenes, holding boom mics for 12 hours and having to work in Shia LaBeouf's BO. On top of this, they can't say anything about it or stand up for themselves. They just have to sit there and take it so that Mr. Oscar nominee can stay in character. It's pathetic and it's exhausting. We'd be here for hours if I gave every one of these divas their own segment, so let's just quickly skim through some of the actors who are known to be just terrible to work with. Charlie Sheen, Lea Michele, Jennifer Lopez, Edward Norton, Julia Roberts, Alec Baldwin, Bruce Willis, Bill Murray, the list goes on and on. And those are just the ones that people weren't scared to speak out about. But here's the thing, the actors, they're not the ones in charge. It's the directors who have all the power on set. And that's scary because when the people who have the most power are also the worst ones in the room, that's when everything starts to make sense. Let's talk about Woody Allen, because for years, Hollywood treated him like a cinematic genius who could do no wrong. Except, you know, the part where he was accused of sexually abusing his then 7-year-old stepdaughter, Dylan Farrow. Back in 1992, when allegations first came out, it was looked into by investigators from both New York and Connecticut. The Connecticut prosecutor actually said that there was probable cause to charge Woody Allen, meaning that there was enough evidence to actually take him to trial. But he decided not to. Why? Because Dylan was 7 years old at the time and he didn't want to put her through that traumatic court case, which is just crazy. Despite this, Mia and Dylan Farrow have never stopped speaking up about this traumatizing event in hopes that something would eventually change. 5 years after these initial accusations, Woody Allen then went on to marry another one of his stepdaughters who was 20 at the time. But did Hollywood care? Of course not. They gave him Oscars, they gave him funding, they literally handed him a Lifetime Achievement Award. And just wait till you hear what some of these celebrities were saying about him. Scarlett Johansson said, "I love Woody, I believe him, and I would work with him anytime." Blake Lively said, "My experience with Woody is that he's empowering to women." Kate Winslet said, "As the actor in the film, you just have to step away and say, I don't know anything really, and whether any of it is true or false." And there are plenty more where that came from. But I think the saddest thing about it is that most of these people defending him are women, and I just find that devastating. Then you have the A-list stars who didn't publicly defend him but still worked in his films. Emma Stone, Hugh Jackman, Greta Gerwig, Selena Gomez, Timothée Chalamet, Hugh Grant, I mean, there's hundreds. It wasn't until decades later during the Me Too movement when these celebrities started to suddenly distance themselves. Not because they magically grew a conscience, but because it hurt their image not to. Kate Winslet, who was all for separating the art from the artist before, suddenly came out with a quote saying, "It's like, what the fuck was I doing working with Woody Allen and Roman Polanski?" It's unbelievable to me now how those men were held in such high regard so widely in the film industry and for as long as they were. It's fucking disgraceful. Funny how that works, right? It only took massive public backlash for people to be like, oh, maybe working with someone who was accused of doing disturbing things with a child is bad. But by then, it didn't even matter. Woody Allen had already spent an entire lifetime winning awards and being protected. But if there's one thing that Hollywood will always do, it's look the other way until it's not convenient to. I did not mean to rhyme there. Alfred Hitchcock famously terrorized actress Tippi Hedren. She came out and said that he basically stalked her, harassed her, and threatened to destroy her career when she rejected him. And yet, he's still hailed as one of the greatest directors of all time. Directors having a reputation in Hollywood isn't new by any means, but majority of the time it's not for committing crimes, it's for being impossible to work with. Take Stanley Kubrick for example, who was so obsessed with getting the perfect shot to the point where it stopped being about directing and started being psychological warfare. During the filming of The Shining, he famously forced Shelley Duvall to do 127 takes of the same scene until she was physically shaking and losing hair from the stress. But that kind of behavior isn't condemned. If anything, it's romanticized. People will sit there and say that this kind of approach wasn't cruel, it was passionate. They twist it into this tortured genius narrative where mistreating people somehow becomes proof of greatness. And that cycle still continues today with directors like David O. Russell. Of course, he's undeniably talented, making critically acclaimed movies such as Silver Linings Playbook and American Hustle, but he's also known for being notoriously abusive on set. Just look at this disgusting leaked video of him going absolutely crazy on actress Lily Tomlin.
I'm just trying to help you. Do you understand me? No, I'm being a collaborator. I'm just trying to help you figure out your fucking thing. Okay, bitch? I'm not here to be yelled at. I worked on this thing for 3 years, not to have some yell at me in front of the crew when I'm trying to help you, bitch. Figure it out yourself.
I think the worst part about this video was everyone else just standing there not saying a word. But honestly, I don't blame them. Because in Hollywood, speaking up can cost you your career. You call out a director and suddenly you're labeled difficult to work with, you get blacklisted and you don't get hired again. So you keep your head down, pretend you don't see what's happening, and just pray that the day ends without someone screaming in your face. And that's the power imbalance that no one really talks about. Everyone's replaceable except the man in charge. That's exactly how they stay untouchable. The only people that really have the power to stand against him is the A-list actors that work with him. During the filming of the movie Three Kings, David O. Russell was out of control, reportedly screaming at crew members and throwing things across the room. Things got so bad on set that George Clooney had to step in, which resulted in a physical fight between them. Clooney later said that Russell was a miserable fuck who created a hostile work environment every single day. But the chaos didn't stop there. On American Hustle, Amy Adams has said that she was constantly crying on set because of how Russell treated her and that it was so toxic she wanted to quit. Christian Bale had to literally step in to defend her multiple times, telling Russell to back off. And then there's the part that barely anyone talks about. In 2011, David O. Russell was accused of groping his 19-year-old transgender niece at a gym in Florida. According to the police report, he was asking her invasive questions about her body, her chest, about the hormone she was taking, and then he touched her underneath her top. She told police that she felt uncomfortable, and Russell admitted that he did touch her, but he tried to claim that she had given him permission. Russell also said that his niece had asked him to pinky swear not to tell anyone about her letting him touch under her shirt, basically implying that it was all her fault. He then followed this up by saying she is always causing drama since the transgender transformation and has become very provocative and seductive. That's what happened in that gym. She was acting very provocative towards me. I'm sorry, what? Let me just repeat that. A grown man admitted to touching his teenage niece, blamed her for it, and somehow still has a career. As for the investigation, the case was closed, but because the prosecutors said it would be difficult to prove criminal intent beyond a reasonable doubt, especially since Russell claimed the contact was consensual and his niece hadn't told him to stop during the encounter. I'm actually kind of lost for words right now. This is genuinely the weirdest thing I've ever read. The fact that he admitted it and still got to keep making movies? That tells you everything you need to know about how this industry works. Any normal person with that same track record would never work again, but David O. Russell? He has people like Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, Robert De Niro, and even bloody Taylor Swift all lining up to work with him like he isn't the world's biggest wanker. That's how Hollywood works. As long as the Oscars are still calling, no one cares what happens behind the camera. One of the most upsetting aspects about this whole topic is that it's often the victims calling out bad behavior who suffer the biggest career consequences. Of course, we've all heard about Harvey Weinstein, who is one of the most powerful men in Hollywood, producing Oscar-winning movies and basically deciding who becomes famous.
Harvey Weinstein, who believed in us.
Harvey Weinstein.
Thank you, Harvey Weinstein.
Especially Harvey.
Harvey, who first took me on 20 years ago.
I would like to thank Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey and Bob Weinstein.
Then in 2017, everything came crashing down when dozens of women came forward accusing him of harassment and assault. What's insane is that there were so many people who already knew about this. It was one of Hollywood's worst kept secrets. I mean, for crying out loud, he was literally nicknamed Harvey the Creep, but no one said anything because he had the power to ruin you. And that is exactly what he did. Actresses like Mira Sorvino and Ashley Judd both said that after rejecting him, their careers suddenly vanished. Director Peter Jackson even confirmed this after he said that when he was considering casting them for Lord of the Rings, Weinstein stepped in and told him that they were a nightmare to work with. And that's what's so dark about it. It wasn't enough for him to just hurt these women, he had to destroy their careers too. Years of work all gone just because they wouldn't give in to him. Then there's Brendan Fraser. In the early 2000s, he was everywhere. The Mummy, George of the Jungle, total box office star. And then suddenly he vanished and no one really knew why. It wasn't until years later in 2018 when he revealed what actually happened. He claimed that he was sexually assaulted by the head of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association in 2003, the same people who run the Golden Globes. After he spoke out about it the first time, he quickly stopped being invited to events, he stopped getting opportunities, and for years he just completely vanished. It was only recently that he finally made a comeback and he won the Oscar for Best Actor in 2023, so just imagine what that moment must have felt like for him. At the end of the day, Hollywood keeps rewarding bad people because it's easier for them. Staff don't want to lose jobs, studios don't want to lose profit, and audiences, well, we've been trained to separate the art from the artist so often that we forget that the artist still gets paid. And yeah, things are starting to shift. Social media means secrets don't stay buried forever. The public actually has a voice now, and the studios know it. That's why whenever there's a big controversy, these studios will rush to release some half-assed statement or fire the person who caused it because it's bad PR. Not because they care, but because they're scared of looking bad. And that's why every time I think things are slowly starting to change, I remember how Jared Leto recently starred in Disney's newest release, Tron. And suddenly I'm reminded that the behind-the-scenes core of things will probably never change. So maybe it's time that we take the power in our own hands. We decide what we watch, who we celebrate, and who we let fade into irrelevance. Because at the end of the day, no amount of talent excuses being a terrible person, and if Hollywood won't hold them accountable, then I will. But anyway, that is the end of today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down below if there were any terrible people that I missed in this video. I cannot wait to read the comments. And if you made it this far, comment the word truth so I can see the people who also love movies as much as me and I can like all of your comments. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for nearly 100,000 subscribers. I cannot believe it. I'm gonna be going absolutely bananas when I reach it, but I just wanted to say thank you so much and I will see you in the next video. Bye!